Welcome to Transformative Principal, where you learn how to be a leader and not just a manager of a to-do list. I am your host, Jethro Jones. You can find me on Twitter at Jethro Jones. Your to-do list is a hungry monster that is never satisfied. For the last year and a half, I've helped principals get awards, get promoted, and find the time to do the work that really matters. I recently opened a new mastermind slot. Schedule a call with me and let's overcome the stressed and isolated principal position together. Go to the show notes for this episode at transformativeprincipal.org and click Schedule a Call with Jethro. Well, here we are, episode 300. Welcome. I am so excited that we've reached 300 episodes. Isn't this amazing? So I've done some separate episodes on the side, just some, me talking. Maybe I should probably introduce myself. My name is Jethro Jones, host of the Transformative Principal podcast. This is episode 300. Welcome. I'm so excited. I can't believe that after nearly 6 years, I've actually gotten to episode 300. In fact, I've released a bunch of shorter other episodes and specials, so I'm actually at 448 total episodes for this podcast, which is just amazing. And so I thought it would be a great idea to, with it being 300 episodes, give a overview of what's going on and where we're heading. And so that's an exciting thing for me to be able to talk about what is going on in the world of Transformative Principal. So first and foremost, we've had over 500,000 podcast downloads, which is pretty amazing. I am amazed by that. And I want to say thank you to you who's listening right now for listening to the Transformative Principal podcast, for sharing it, for leaving reviews, and for just being here. I want you to know that I take your attention and time very seriously, and I put out episodes that I believe will make you a better leader. And I like to tell people when I'm talking about this that it's like I got a PhD through doing the podcast. And I think if you listen to all 448 total episodes and 300 official episodes, you'll be able to get a great amount of learning that is really just incredible. And I'm really excited about that. So thank you for listening. So there are a couple different things that I'm starting that are new as part of this podcast. I'm going to cut to that here in just a minute. Jen David Lang, who's the founder of the mainidea.net, she and I are going to, we'll see how it goes, but we're planning on doing something regular where each month she releases a summary of a top leadership book. And so I'm going to have her on the podcast to talk about it. And they're going to be short little additions to the podcast. And I hope that you enjoy those. And if you want to subscribe to her service, go to themainidea.net and you can get a summary of a professional book each month of the school year. And I added this to provide more value to you, the listener, to be able to hear what she has to say about that. So that's themainidea.net. And I really appreciate what she's doing and think it's awesome. So wanted to make sure I shared it with you. It's also something that the members of my mastermind, they get subscribed to that as a part of the service. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and have you listen to my short interview with Jen David Lang about the Leverage Leadership 2.0 by Paul Bambrick Santoyo, which, as you know, is a book that I think is really great. So here's that interview. All right. I am very excited to introduce you, if you don't already know her, to Jen David Lang. Jen, welcome. And let's first start by talking about what you do, a one-sentence description of the mainidea.net.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Jethro. I am basically a designated reader for school leaders. I read tons of education and leadership books, and as part of a subscription service, I email one summary a month of those books to school leaders all over the world.
So I love what Jen is doing with this. I think that it is great because we need to be readers, and sometimes we just don't have time. So we have shelves of shame on our nightstands that are 10 books high, and that's unfortunate. But today what we're going to do is we're going to get into her latest book summary, which is on Leverage Leadership 2.0 by Paul Bambrick Santoyo. And if you have been a listener of this podcast, you know that I love Leverage Leadership and other works by Paul. And so this is a a great introduction to his new book, Leverage Leadership 2.0. So let's start first with a brief overview of what the book is, Jen.
Sure. And I love Paul too, so I'm sure he's on everyone's shelf of shame. Basically, Leverage Leadership 2.0 is Paul Bambrick Santoyo's good to great. He spent the last 15 years working with over 20,000 school leaders all over the world, rural, suburban, large school districts, small. And he really looked at what the most exceptional leaders were doing. Not the good ones, not the great, but the most exceptional leaders as measured by student learning. And he found that there were 7 areas in which these leaders excelled and where they were very careful and planful about how they used their time. And he called these 7 areas levers, because they were able to leverage much more student learning out of what they put into the job than the typical school leader.
Yeah, very good. And Paul has a different definition of instructional leadership than I think most of us are used to. And so can you talk a little bit about how he defines instructional leadership?
Sure. I mean, most of us think of instructional leadership as you observe a teacher and you debrief with that teacher. But he expands that to include much more. In fact, he says if all you do is observe teachers, you're really only seeing about 1% of all student learning. Mm-hmm. But if you meet with a teacher and the teacher brings in results from the last 6 to 8 weeks of tests, quizzes, student work, and you go over that work together, all of a sudden you're expanding the percentage of student learning that you're able to oversee from 1% to 80%. So he really talks about these data-driven meetings as a big part of instructional leadership.
Yeah, that is so important. And I want to just highlight that even when you're seeing 80%, you're still not seeing the whole picture. And sometimes we kind of forget that we're not seeing the whole picture, and we feel like what we see is the whole picture, and it certainly isn't. But certainly 80% is much better than 1%. And yes. He has a system for bringing teachers through 3 steps: see it, name it, do it, to help teachers. Can you talk about see it, name it, do it?
Yeah, see it, name it, do it is like his theme throughout the book as a way to help adults learn. And whether that's in professional development, whether it's meeting one-on-one with a teacher, helping her plan a unit, helping teachers understand and use their data, or simply helping teachers improve their pedagogy. So for example, if you were to go in and observe a teacher, and then most of us have a meeting with the teacher, and what do? We share something that worked well, something they should improve, and they nod their head and they leave, and that's the end. His meetings look very different. What he suggests is a see it, name it, do it approach. So let's say you observed a teacher and the teacher did not do a great job of circulating and monitoring work. So he would say, first, the teacher needs to see an exemplar. What's an exemplary teacher? What is an exemplary teacher who knows how to aggressively monitor student work? What does that look like? So he might show a video clip. Second, the teacher has to be able to name what was the criteria of this video clip that makes for a successful monitoring. So then the teacher would have to name those steps. And of course, he as the leader, or whoever the principal is, would help use the common vocabulary or technical words that we use for that. So now the teacher has seen an exemplary example and named it. And now, perhaps as the principal is role-playing students or standing up in a classroom, the teacher will actually role-play monitoring the classroom to check everyone's work. So he includes practice as a part of the coaching. It's not just the principal telling the teacher what to do, or even the teacher coming to the conclusion, aha, I need to do this. It's the teacher getting up on his or her feet and going through the steps of perfecting those moves.
Yeah, and sometimes that may feel silly to do those role plays, but they are incredibly powerful, even if it's just the teacher and the principal doing the role play together. So I would definitely encourage people to apply these principles. And better yet, if you are not already a member of themainidea.net, then I would encourage you to sign up for that at themainidea.net. Any parting words before we sign off, Jen?
Sure. If you want to take a look on the website, and if you want to shoot me an email, I'm happy, if you mention this podcast, to send you a copy of a summary of his book, Driven by Data, where this section that Jethro and I talked about comes from as well.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed that little chat with Jen David Lang. And if you're interested in that, please go to themainidea.net so that you can get those summaries each month throughout the school year. I've got 3 more things to talk about. Number 1, the Rewire conference that I just attended. Number 2, an update on my professional life. And number 3, the fall listener survey. So let's get right into it. I went to the Rewire conference back in New Jersey. That is a conference that Glenn Robbins puts on, and it was amazing. He did a great job. I loved my conversations with all the people there, and I really enjoyed being able to present those sessions. I did 2 sessions. One of them was about trauma-informed practices in your school, which is 3 things we get wrong about trauma and 3 ways to get trauma right in education. And that was really great. I enjoyed that. And I had a person come up to me afterward and say, oh, that was just what I needed. And had a couple people on Twitter who took steps to make some changes right away. And I got to tell you, it feels so good talking to people about that stuff where I can see the results happening in their day-to-day lives. That is really powerful for me. The second presentation that I did was on making your school student-driven instead of data-driven, which is a kind of a soapbox for me, in that sometimes we think that we know the future when we really don't. And we act like we know what's going to make kids college and career ready, but we're just making our best guesses. We're not totally sure about what it is that they really need to be doing. I think we do the best that we can, but I really want to make schools that give kids an opportunity to practice the skills they're going to need in the future when they don't know what the future holds, because none of us know what the future holds. Those 2 sessions were really amazing, and I enjoyed them and had a great time chatting with people and learning from them and sharing things with them. And it made me really recognize that maybe I don't talk enough about the speaking opportunities that I do. I talked about those 2 things. And if you want to see more of the speaking that I do, go to jethrojones.com/speaking. And you can see how I can come and help your school or district with some of those things. The second thing that I want to talk about is an update on my professional life. This year took a district level position, and I'm able to have a little bit bigger impact. Originally, if you've been listening for a while, you know that we had wanted to do a K-12 magnet school, and it looks like that's not moving as fast as I wanted, which is unfortunate. However, this district level position does give me the opportunity to make some big changes as far as student discipline is concerned. And so I get to make some changes to make our discipline more responsive and better meeting the needs of our kids. The other thing that this has done is opened up some more opportunities for me to go and speak at different places. So if that's something that you're interested in, once again, go to jethrojones.com/speaking, and I'd love to come and chat with you. And this is the final year of my contract with my district. And so we are looking at other opportunities and seeing what else is out there. So in the future, things could look a little bit different. And I hope to do more masterminds and more speaking engagements so that I can have that bigger impact that I'm looking for. The final thing that I want to talk to you about is the fall listener survey. I would love for you to take the fall listener survey. Go to transformativeprincipal.org/survey, and you can take that survey. And I do the survey for 2 reasons. Number 1, I want to make sure that I am providing content on the podcast that you find meaningful. As I mentioned, I respect your time greatly, and I want to provide you with the best that I possibly can. So I want to make sure I'm asking the questions that you're interested in. And I gave the survey last year and have really tried to focus on meeting your needs. And I think that's working well because we've had a ton of downloads this year. The second part is I use the survey to get recommendations for other principals that I should be interviewing. So if you have a principal down the street from you who is doing amazing things, I want you to tell me about it and put it in the survey. And I'll reach out to them and say that one of my listeners said that they're amazing and I should interview them. And that would be an awesome opportunity for me. transformativeprincipal.org/survey is where you can go to find that. And I hope you will take a moment to do that. Once again, I want to say thank you so much for listening to Transformative Principal. It means the world to me that you would spend your time listening to me, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much and have a wonderful week.